Okay guys, we've got a 2017 Ram 1500, and the problem with this truck was they was hearing a noise. They thought it was coming from the right front. As it turned out, it's the right rear, or the passenger rear, and the inboard rotor has made contact with the pad. So it's metal to metal on that side. This side's fine. The rotor's fine on this side, so we're just going to put pads on this side. We're going to put a new rotor over there and new pads. And just in case you're wanting to put just pads on, I'll show you that procedure, and then we're going to show you the pulling the hoe assembly off, caliper and caliper bracket, and replacing the rotor on that other side. But basically, looks like it's going to be a pretty straightforward deal. I usually like to reach in here, use a screwdriver to compress the piston back in before I even take anything apart. That's the way I've always done it. It's just a it's a very easy way to do it, and you don't have to use any special tools. You don't have to get a C-clamp after you've taken it off. The piston is completely compressed back now, so now whenever I take this off, the rotor's going to come right off. We'll lay it up here to change out the hardware, and then we'll go on from there. The caliper bolts on this are 10 millimeter. Yeah, let's get the bottom one first. So there's the caliper. You can see the piston's already compressed back. It just makes the job a lot easier. Now I don't have to use a C-clamp or use the piston compressors that you can buy. And then all we'll do is finagle these pads on out of here. We do have new spring clips. There's that pad, doesn't look too bad. That other side should not, I mean, this side's still got some pads, so we're going to have to make sure that that other side is able to move along the surface okay. There's that one. It's still got maybe 30 to 40% life left in it. Now, before I take these completely off, I'm going to get the new ones. That way I can see exactly how they go. Looks like they only go on one way. Pads that we're putting on this is Bendix Priority 1 Ultra Premium brake pads. And they do come with the hardware. Basically, you can just kind of take a look, see exactly how they go, and now these are slightly different from the top to the bottom. What you want to do is make sure this tab, whenever you snap these on, this tab should be lined up with the rotor. In fact, let me get this top one off and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Take a look at these. You can see how one is offset from the other. That's because one goes on the top, one goes on the bottom. And whenever they're on correctly, this tab right here lines straight up with the rotor. And on this particular set, it looks like It does look like that the pads are exactly the same. I don't see any noticeable difference between the inboard and outboard pad. Now, I don't know if these are the fat. I didn't even look to see how many miles was on this truck. I'm just going to look at all 4 of these new pads just to make sure that they are the same, and they all look exactly the same. Oh. There's that inboard. Now I got this clip. I need to get this clip scooted over. Push that clip. We'll go in at the top first. This is the trickiest part about some of these brakes, is getting them clipped in right. Once you get them clipped in, then you're home free. Well, they made these things tight. There we go. Okay. Now the caliper should be just straightforward. Of course, you want to make sure that your pins move, and these feel like, I don't see any ripped boots. I don't see or feel any binding. I'll be curious to see how that other side feels, since that's the one that's made contact with the rotor. Make sure the caliper floats. Make sure it's not binding on nothing. And we're done with this side. So if you're just replacing pads, that's as quick and easy as it gets. So now we're going to go over there. I'm going to take the entire caliper bracket off so that I can get the rotor off. First thing, same thing. I'm going to just reach in here with a screwdriver. Slowly pry that piston back. Just saves me the hassle of having to use a C-clamp or a caliper piston compressor. Now on this one, where'd my, okay, here we go. We're going to go ahead and take the caliper off and get my impact in here some way. I'm going to go ahead and throw those bolts down there. And first thing I like to do is just make sure that these are moving free, and they are. So I don't see a problem there. Find a place over here that this caliper will not hang. You don't want to hang calipers by the hose. And you can see that metal to metal. Oh, you know what? These are different pads. So someone, that's interesting. Now someone's been here before, it looks like. Okay, so now to get the rotor off, the caliper bracket's got to come off. So I think this is 21 millimeter, looks like. But we may not be able to even get my impact in there. Just using a long ratchet. Hopefully I can get enough torque on it. There we go. Use my handy dandy little DEWALT. I love this thing. So off comes the bracket. And off comes the rotor. Now, these shoes right here are your emergency brake. You know, more than likely they ain't going to be worn, but you definitely want to take a look, make sure that they still look fine. One thing you always want to do, they usually put a light coat of a protective film on these rotors to prevent them from rusting while they're waiting around in storage. So take you some brake cleaner. And wipe that coating off. That way it's not going to gum up your new pads. All right. And you can see, you know, there's very little rust or buildup on these caliper brackets. So luckily here in Texas we don't get a lot of rust. I generally don't worry too much unless I see rust build up, or you know, something that's going to prevent the clips from clipping on and being able to slide freely. A lot of times you won't see me spend a lot of time cleaning those up. Now, if there's a bunch of buildup on them, you definitely want to clean those up. Take a little wire brush or something to them. Come on. I'll put the torques in the description. As long as you get these pretty much as tight as you can with a like a breaker bar or something, you're going to be fine. And again, make sure, so can you see that? See where that tab is? Right over the rotor. If you put the wrong one on, see how now that tab is off from the rotor? So make sure you get these on right. And like I said, sometimes this is the biggest kind of pain in the ass part doing brake jobs. There we go. You may have to bend these little tabs out a little bit. There we go. Okay. These little tabs, generally on most models, you don't have to really do a lot of prying out on them to get the tabs of the brake pad in, but on this one apparently you do. Anyway, that's the way that should look like. Make sure they're pressed all the way up against the rotor. Make sure the rotor's pushed all the way on. And now, and I noticed when I pulled this caliper off, that I may have to push this piston in. What happens a lot of times is you'll get these pistons, they'll kind of float back out even once you've got them completely pressed. And again, make sure that your slider pins slide nice and easy. Everything on this appears to be fine, so I don't know, someone had put different pads on either this side or that side and not on the other, so that's kind of odd. Let me see if I can get this on. If not, I'm going to have to push that piston in a little bit more. Yeah, oh, that's so close. Okay, show you an easy way to do this. I say easy. It's easy if you've got a big pair of channel locks. Now you do have to be careful on these composite pistons, because you can break them up if you're not careful. So I just real easily, not with a whole lot of force, finish pushing the piston in. Make sure these are pushed back. Before you tighten everything up, just make sure everything looks like it's tucked into its right little spot. And like I say, you want to make sure that this little part right there is up in there. The bottom doesn't have it, so you'll go in with the top and then the bottom will slide in. Let's see. Done with that one. And there you have it. Rotor and brake pads. 2017 Ram 1500. Don't forget, once you get your tires back on, pump your brakes 2 or 3 times before you put it in gear, because the pistons are pushed all the way back into the calipers, so you don't want to forget that. You'll get a surprise if you put it in gear and you go to take off. You're going to realize that the first depression of the brake pedal, you're not going to have any brakes, so it'll give you a little panic. Anyway, again, 2017 Ram 1500, brake pads, new rotor on this side. You guys take care.